Severe weather strikes again with the threat of large hail in strange places, and an unusual weather pattern is set to bring wild and weird weather over the next 7 days, including the return of the atmospheric river. We're going to take a look at all of that, plus a look at your Mother's Day forecast. Will mom stay dry, or will she be singing in the rain? Well, you're in the right place to find out. This is Cold Rain's Weather World, where we've got all the weather. And it starts right now. Hey there, friends, and welcome back to another exciting action-packed edition of Cold Rain's Weather World, the fastest growing new weather show on the internet, and we are growing every day. And I want to thank you for stopping by. We've got a lot of weather to get into today, including a severe weather threat for this afternoon that has actually increased in likelihood, including the threat of large hail in places that don't usually see such sized hail. And we're going to look at that. We've got an odd pattern change that is kind of on the horizon that will affect our weather over the next few days, including the threat of flash flooding, the return of the atmospheric river, and a heat wave to boot. So we're going to get into all of it and take a look at your Mother's Day forecast, as I said at the top of the show. One of the promises that I make to you every day is to leave you smarter than when you came, and one of the ways that we do that is by testing your weather IQ. And that starts with our Weather IQ question of the day. And today's Weather IQ question is about tsunamis. So how much do you know about tsunamis? Well, you're about to find out how much you know. So the question is, how fast can a tsunami travel across the ocean? 50 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour, 500 miles per hour, 1,000 miles per hour. If you know the answer, type it in the comments section. If you don't know the answer, then just wait until the end of the show, and that's where we'll get to our Weather IQ Answer section. Okay, so that is what we've got today. We've got a lot to get into, and we're going to get into it right now. We're going to begin today by looking at the water vapor imagery, because there are some important features that are going to factor into the weather today and the upcoming weather pattern as well. And we're going to take a look at these, and they show up pretty well in our water vapor imagery. One of those is a big trough up here over the Great Lakes, and it sort of extends through the Great Lakes up into the Northeast, and you can see that showing up very well here. We've got another trough sitting down here over the Arklatex in this area. You can kind of see that here. Out ahead of these troughs are where we find lift and rising motion, clouds and precipitation, and you can see an area of convective activity from West Virginia all the way back into Missouri, including St. Louis. We've got another convective area back here in Texas, another little trough down here in Mexico moving up this way, and then some convection firing up over Florida a little bit. It's been moving through South Carolina, Columbia. You saw some showers and thunderstorms this morning. And so all of this is going to, all of these features are going to impact our weather in one way or another over the next couple of days. And so we're going to take a look at just how this is going to play out. Looking at our surface map, and I'm going to bounce my displays around here for a little bit so we can see everything. But looking at our surface map, we've got a little bit convoluted map. It looks like we've got several little waves of low pressure along a frontal boundary from New England all the way into the Midwest. We've got another low pressure zone that's over Missouri, that's the surface reflection of that upper trough. Out ahead of this, we've got an unstable air mass. The dew points are not running excessively high here, but we do have an area of concern out here in the Tennessee Valley, Cumberland Plateau, over into the southern Appalachians. We've got another little section down here in Florida and the coast of Georgia where we're looking at a potential for some severe weather this afternoon. And we've got another section down in southern Texas where this trough moving out of Mexico could spark some showers and thunderstorms. These frontal zones are notorious for providing a mechanism for convergence at the surface, and if you've got the right conditions aloft, you can get severe weather, and we have that out there today. High pressure firmly in control out here in the west, so we're not looking at a lot of activity out there. Taking a look at the temperature profile for this afternoon, very, very warm over the southeast. Temperatures in the 80s for much of the southeast, warm for much of the country. Temperatures in the 70s, 80s up here where we've got a ridge building in Canada. We've been looking at this over the last few days, and we've got high temperatures out in the southwest as well, 80s and 90s out here. The ridge is going to really build over the next 7 days, and we're going to see a large area of heat, expansive heat for the upper plains and then pretty much the central plains as well. So I'm going to bounce over here to our SPC display, and you can see that slight risk extending through the Tennessee Valley into the southern Appalachians, another slight risk here in Georgia and along the essentially the southern border down in Texas. Tornado threat, 2% chance, so not out of the question to see a spin up this afternoon. We've got some shear, we've got low freezing levels, we've got colder conditions as you go up into the atmosphere, so you don't need dew points into the 70s or 80s to bring big instability when you've got such cooling that we have today. So we've got shear, we've got cooling. That's going to help us really maximize the wind and hail threat. And look at this. 15% chance of significant hail, 2 inches or greater, for much of Tennessee into North Carolina, into the mountains and foothills of North Carolina, including where Cold Rain lives here in Morganton. We don't usually see this kind of setup here. This is much more out in the plains and maybe upper Midwest and things like that, but the freezing levels are low. Shear is going to be there. Supercells are going to develop this afternoon, and they're going to eventually coalesce into clusters, and we're going to see wind, and we're going to see hail, and it wouldn't be out of the question to see a spin up in terms of a tornado. 15% chance of hail, significant hail down here. That's 2 inches or greater in southern Texas as well. So that's what we're looking at for a severe threat today. Hail being the primary threat, downburst winds in this area, of course, as well. That convective activity will move on into the Piedmont later on. Taking a look at the instability for this afternoon. This is this morning, late this morning, and as we move this on through the afternoon, you can see that instability building through the Tennessee Valley into the southeast. So general showers and thunderstorms are not out of the question anywhere in the southeast today, but the severe threat where you've got shear and cooling with height and instability sort of overlapping is really in the Tennessee and the southern Appalachian area here. But you can see as we move on in towards 7 p.m., 8 p.m. tonight, look at this. Instability finally starts to wane. We're going to see those thunderstorms eat some of that instability up, so you can see that kind of diminish as we go on through the evening here, and cooling takes over. Looking at the radar display, this is the simulated radar from the HRRR. Supercells already forming late this morning into the early afternoon hours. We're seeing thunderstorm. This is just general thunderstorm activity. So thunderstorms can start to pop anywhere. It's an uncapped environment. So that means we don't have a lot of inhibition to convection. Where are they going to focus and where are they going to form first? That's a little bit TBD, but the model shows you kind of what it's expecting here. So it should start to see thunderstorm development fire up over Tennessee, over the mountains and foothills, eastern side of the mountains here in North Carolina. And watch what happens as we go through the afternoon. That the coverage will become more expansive in surface area here, and you can see convective elements, segments, little clusters. Supercells have a tendency to converge into these clusters, and they'll move forward. And anywhere you see all of this activity, we could pick up some large hail in the stronger downdraft. So coverage is going to become more expansive through the afternoon and evening in those areas. As we get on into the late evening areas, you can still see, look in North Carolina and South Carolina, down here in Georgia, we're looking at, toward Augusta, up into Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia, Asheville, Hickory, Greensboro, Raleigh. You're all under the gun for severe weather this afternoon and in the evening. That will continue through the overnight hours and eventually taper off into more of a stratiform rain type of an event. But that's what we're looking at in the southern Appalachians. So stay weather aware, have multiple ways to receive alerts out here. Down in Texas, sort of a similar story. As we get to the early afternoon hours, 1, 2 o'clock, we're seeing convection fire here along the western border. And then also down into the southern tip, down near Brownsville and places like that. And watch what happens as we get on into the evening hours. You just see these clusters of storms develop through the evening hours. This is around 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11. Still a few showers left around. That'll diminish as the sun goes down. So stay weather aware down in Texas as well. And that's what we're looking at for the severe weather threat today. And we're going to take a look at that unusual weather pattern shaping up that's going to bring a flooding and a heat wave, and we'll look at your Mother's Day forecast. But before we do that, I wanted to share a quick, fun weather fact that you may not know. The wettest place in the U.S., and this is fun to say, is actually Mount Waialeale in Hawaii. It receives over 450 inches of rainfall per year. We've got flooding coming up, folks, but fortunately we don't have 450 to 460 inches of rainfall anywhere coming up in the next few days. Whew. Mount Waialeale. Say that 3 times real fast. That's a fun one. So anyway, we're going to take a look at the severe weather threat for tomorrow and the pattern coming up over the next couple of days. Thank you for subscribing, those of you that have done so. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is what we do. We go through the weather, highlighting marquee weather events. We take a look at the long range, important dates coming up and things like that. We have a little fun along the way as well. And certainly if there's anything I can pray over for you, please type that in the comment section. I'm always happy to do that. Question about the show, suggestion for the show, question about weather, anything like that. And like the content if you like it. But subscribe and you'll get notified if you turn on those notifications as well when I put out new videos. Try to do one of these per day. And so anyway, getting back into it, we're looking at a severe weather threat tomorrow. Is just a marginal threat from essentially eastern Virginia down here to the panhandle of Florida and the east coast of Florida, so up and down the southeastern seaboard. Isolated to widely scattered convection tomorrow afternoon. It wouldn't surprise me to see maybe a spot here or there upgraded to a slight risk in this area, but we're really not looking at widespread organized wind or hail event. Just looking at some isolated to scattered hail reports, not really looking at a tornado threat tomorrow. What is of greater concern as we start to move ahead, and this is for Sunday into Monday, and then we've got another outlook for Monday into Tuesday that's more expansive, is flooding concerns. So the slight risk is already up for Georgia and the panhandle of Florida for Sunday into Monday. Monday into Tuesday, that expands much, much farther to the north, including most of eastern Georgia, all of South Carolina, and much of North Carolina as well. We've got an atmospheric river event that's going to take place, and we'll take a look at that. We're going to look at it in the way of by way of looking at our mid-level winds. This is 500 millibars, about 3.5 miles up. And there are a couple of important features here that I want you to take note of. This trough up here in the northeast, this elongated trough that's kind of situated back over the Tennessee Valley. This is for tomorrow morning, by the way. This is actually this morning, and this other trough coming out of Mexico, okay? And then we've got this big ridge way up here. See how it kind of connects to that trough? All of this area is under ridging. See this big ridge kind of coming up through here? I know that's kind of a messy drawing, but those are the features that are important to your weather. This is what drives your weather, these things that happen way up here at 500 millibars. So let's put this on into motion over the next few days, and let's see what happens to these features. We move this out through the day on Thursday. We get into Friday morning, about 8, 9 o'clock Friday morning, and look what's happening up here already. We've got this low that's closing off up here over the New England. This is going to bring unsettled weather over the end of the week, the first part of the weekend for New England. This other trough is kind of getting pinched off down here over the southeast, and these contours are starting to come together, and this ridge is continuing to persist over much of the western part of the country. So as we get on in through the day, Friday into Friday night into Saturday, at least this trough up here, this now closed low, is moving out to the north and to the east. So it's going to get out of your hair, leaving you with a nice Mother's Day. Unfortunately, this upper low in the southeast, this trough has now become an upper low. The ridge is still back here. This ridge is going to move over the top of this low, creating sort of a Rex block. That means unsettled weather for the people that are underneath and to the east of that upper low. So look at this. Look how this happens. You see what happens here? This ridge. Look at what happens as we get on into Sunday afternoon. Look at this. You've got a ridge over the top up here in Canada. Big ridge. That means warm temperatures. We've got this massive cutoff sitting right over Louisiana, just pumping moisture out of the Atlantic, out of the Gulf into the southeast. So we're going to see unsettled weather conditions in the southeast. And as we move this on along Monday, that thing finally starts. It's crawling, folks. It's just crawling, and this ridge keeps this thing blocked in, and so we finally see a trough swinging into the west coast. That could set up another severe weather event as we go out in time. We'll keep our eyes on that, but we're just going to watch it. for now. Ridge, warm temperatures over top of this trough, this cutoff low, and it finally, by Tuesday into Wednesday, we finally start to see some progress as this thing kicks out, but it's going to be a slow mover. It's going to provide soaking rains, and now we're going to look at everybody's favorite, precipitable water. Okay, so this is Sunday morning. This is 8 o'clock. Remember yesterday Zulu time? This is 12 Zulu. This is -4 hours East Coast time. So we're looking at 8 a.m. Sunday morning. South of this boundary is where you'll see clouds, where you'll see showers and thunderstorms. North of this, it's dry and you won't see showers. But as we go through the day Sunday, look how that boundary advances north, and look what's happening down here in the Gulf. This closed low back here is just pumping a fire hose of moisture up into the southeast. This is going to be important because this is deep moisture, saturated cloud layers, efficient rainfall production. And so watch what happens as we get on into Monday, Sunday evening into Monday. That just surges out of the Gulf into the southeast. This low just brings moisture all the way around it, pumps it all the way in to the Ohio Valley, and eventually we start to push things off as we get toward Wednesday. So we should see a few days of active weather in the southeast, at least through the early part of next week. That's going to set the stage for copious rain amounts and flooding. And if we take a look here, we're going to get to those rain amounts here in just a second, but let's just look at your Mother's Day forecast. For the two trouble spots, we're going to focus on two areas up in New England, the Northeast, and into the Southeast as well, because that's where we see the bulk of the precipitation chances for Mother's Day. And so as we get on into Friday, look, Friday afternoon, we start to see showers and rain move into New England that persists through Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and then overnight Sunday, we start to clear out. And look what happens on Mother's Day. Nothing but clear skies up here, no rain, nice day from as far as the eye can see in this quadrant of the country. The Southeast is a bit of a different story. So if we take a look at Friday afternoon, we get on into Friday afternoon, we see showers and thunderstorms over much of the Southeast. We're not really seeing a massive severe threat, but these are going to be heavy rain producers as we go through the weekend. Nighttime on Saturday and Friday night into the Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon, we're seeing the bulk of the rainfall confined to the lower Southeast. Again, as we move into Sunday morning at 8 a.m., north of that boundary, remember that boundary that we saw before? North of there, it's going to be a little less likely to see precipitation, but that will change as we go through the day on Sunday. This starts to creep up in here into Sunday evening. You could start to see in Tennessee and the southern half of North Carolina rain. So rainfall, unfortunately, southern Arkansas, eastern Texas, all the way through South Carolina, and potentially down into Florida on Sunday for Mother's Day. So it could be a wet one. Then those showers and storms as that upper low continues to pump that fire hose in here. We've got moisture just streaming in from the Gulf. We're going to see a lot of rain, buckets, buckets, buckets of rain. We're going to see many inches of rain for parts of the Southeast. And if we take a look at the WPC, they have issued a 7-day rainfall estimate of anywhere from 3 to as much as 7 inches of rain for much of the Southeast. So we're going to see rainfall come in, folks, and it's going to rain for several days, not straight for several days, but these showers and thunderstorms, these repeated showers and thunderstorms, going to drop a lot of rain. So be on guard for that. If we start to, we'll probably see flash flood watches issued as we move through the pattern. Then we're going to see more and more in the way of flooding and things like that. So stay alert, have multiple ways to receive alerts, and watch out as we go through the weekend. I wanted to show you this too. This is our average, basically average high temperatures for May. Look at this. 60s pretty much across the north, 70s through the central, 80s, and then some 90s as we go along the south. Now watch what happens as we go through the next few days. That ridge over Canada is going to build, and it's going to set the stage for heat. So we're well above normal already. 80s in the plains, 80s across the south, chilly in the northeast under the influence of that trough. As we go into Saturday, this upper low starts to deepen. We're going to see chillier weather back here. Very warm 80s and 90s across the upper plains. Hundreds creeping into the southwest. Warm across the south, cool in the northeast under the influence of rain and clouds. Sunday for your Mother's Day, cool still in the northeast, chilly in the south under rain and clouds for much of the southeast with that upper low present. 90s making it all the way into the Canadian border. This is a heat wave, folks. You might set some records around here. Hundreds in the southwest. Pacific Northwest is cool as a new trough moves in. Heat continues to build as we get into Monday. So we're really setting the stage for the heat wave. This upper low will pull out, and we're going to see a return to much warmer temperatures as we get on into mid-May for much of the east. A new trough pulls in and cools off in the west, but it brings the threat of severe weather back in. Looking at your 6 to 10 day, this is May the 13th through the 17th, so you can see the dates up there. Below normal in the west with that trough coming in, much above through the central part of the country, and near normal still hanging on to some near normal conditions out in the southeast. Below normal for Alaska, above normal for Hawaii. Rainfall much above in the southeast as that upper low pulls away. We'll still see a little bit more rainfall up there. New trough comes in, brings additional chances for rain showers across the plains and the Intermountain West and Northern Rockies, and then average kind of signal below in the middle. So that's your weather update. That was a lot, folks. We had a lot to get through, but hopefully that prepares you for what's coming. You can stay weather aware, and I'll keep you posted here as we go along. Nothing doing in or new anyway, in our volcano map. Not much going on in the earthquake front either. We've had a few earthquakes here in central and southern California today. So a little earthquake swarm happening out here. Looks like 2.9 is the highest one that we've seen in the San Francisco area, but we've seen 2 or 3 out here. So watch out, folks. Nothing else going on that front. Looking at sunspots, big sunspot cluster 4079 is out of our hair. 481 is about to turn away. 482 is coming in, but none of these are really have interspersed magnetism, so we're not seeing the risk of large solar flares, at least. We do have some filaments erupting here or there, so we'll watch out for those. But that's what's going on there. Aurora not likely, and so we won't see much in the way of aurora viewing either. But that brings us to the end of the show and to the answer to today's trivia or weather IQ question. So it's, remember what it was? How fast can a tsunami travel across the ocean? 50, 100, 500, or 1,000 miles per hour? And the answer is 500 miles per hour. That's really fast. It'd just be a bump if you're on a ship out there, but as it gets toward the shore, it's going to slow down and stand up and inundate the coastline. So watch out for tsunamis. They travel very fast across the ocean, and they slow down and raise up as they get to the shore. And a couple of other quick notes I think you'll find interesting too. This day in history, by the way, 1980, the World Health Organization declared the end of smallpox. Hooray. Hopefully that stays gone. But then the other thing that's interesting too, in 1886, Atlanta pharmacist John Pemberton sold the first glass of a famous beverage, Coca-Cola. And yes, the original Coca-Cola formula did have cocaine as it used coca leaves, but that was all phased out by 1904. And now you know your history, you know your weather, and as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you that if other stations run 24/7, we've got you covered 48/14 right here on Cold Rain's Weather World. That's it, folks. Take care. Have a blessed day.